There are two things missing in the US educational system: education and a system. Public education in the United States sucks, we can all agree. Problems of discipline, dropping SAT and college board scores, problems of schools becoming places for keeping people rather than for educating them. These are just few issues from many. First, let's see why exactly we are in this situation, and later discuss what could be done about it. One immediate reason is centralization and bureaucratization of schools. Education has moved from local control and control by parents to control by educational administrators. Dr. Max Gammon described his own version of this phenomenon by showing that in any large bureaucratic organization, useless work tends to displace useful work. The more bureaucratic an organization is, the larger the fraction of people who are spending their time shuffling papers, and the fewer are the people who are producing useful things. Now, Dr. Gammon developed this based on the British medical system. He showed that the number of people employed in the system, as well as the costs, were going up, while the number of hospital beds occupied was going down. The same phenomenon can be observed in our schools. The number of students is decreasing, the number of administrative workers and costs are increasing. All of this is happening while the quality of schooling and educated students are on a decline. Why should centralization and bureaucratization have this effect? The answer is very clear. In other areas, you have a consumer and a producer. A producer can only get bigger if they provide a product more cheaply or better quality to attract more buyers. In case of schooling, the consumers are parents and the child. The producer is the teacher and the school administrator. The more you broaden the area of control, the more difficult it is for a parent to have much of an input. What you do is take control out of the hands of the consumers and put control in the hands of producers. The producer is not serving the consumer to earn his income. Instead, he serves those who fund him. This phenomenon is not at all special to schooling. Whenever government bureaucracy takes over, costs go up and quality goes down. That's no less true of the post office, garbage collection, fire department, and other beloved government-provided services. Again, this is not because government employees are bad people. They are not. They are human beings like you and me. It isn't because the private people are better people. They're not. It's because in the case of the private arrangements, the customer has something to say. In the case of governmental arrangements, the customer has very little to say, and the producer has all the power. In the example of education, least number of complaints come from small towns where parents are closely involved, and most come from large cities where the administration and running of the schools are most separated from the parents. Fundamentally, this reflects a general shift from the philosophy of individual responsibility to social responsibility. We used to believe that an individual was fundamentally responsible for himself, and it was up to him to make his way in the world. The modern view is that an individual is an innocent puppet pushed one way or another by the social forces, that you can't blame an individual for anything. It is the society that is responsible. This is also associated with the view that there are experts, people who know what is good for others better than they do for themselves. You can't let the individual decide what to do because he might make the wrong choice, and it is up to those who are in the elite class who know what is right and have the proper social point of view, not to dictate to the individual, of course, but to guide him in the right direction, to make sure that he does what is good for himself. How absurd. In the example of schools, we took away the responsibility from ignorant parents and gave it to sophisticated and knowledgeable educational experts who could guide kids on the right path. Similarly, if you look at the simple problem of discipline and physical destruction, if I hold the view that everything belongs to the society, and that if something bad happens to me that's not my fault, but because society did it to me, then the whole concept of property loses its role. Why shouldn't I steal or destroy property? It belongs to nobody and everybody. Moreover, the fact that I happen to be from a lower income group, or in deprived social group, or in a discriminated against racial group gives me every right to get back at the society. So the whole concept of social responsibility, the whole reduction in the sense of an individual responsibility, tends to denigrate the respect which the individual has for himself. It tends to remove from the individual his own feeling of importance and significance. Now, what can we do about it? The way to bring learning back into classroom is to give parents more power, more control over their own children's schooling. The parents have the greatest involvement and interest in their own children's schooling. Some of them, if they got the power, would make a mess of it, of course. But a mess is now being made on a much broader scale. But most of them would not make a mess. There is a tendency for some of our intellectuals to underestimate both the interest and the capacity of the citizens to act independently. But how can you give parents more power? There is a very simple scheme called the voucher plan. It must be noted that I am against public-funded education, but we must look at the current situation and find tools to resolve the current problems. Voucher plan does exactly that. Imagine you're a parent sending your child to a private school. You're saving the government money. Since you're relieving them from that expense, they could give you a voucher for an amount that is slightly less, which you may use for one purpose only: pay the schooling costs of your child at any other school. If public schools are indeed as good as portrayed, people would keep sending their kids to the public schools. If they don't, they would have another alternative. This would do exactly the same good that competition does in every other area. How do you get good quality products in other areas? Why is it that we have had enormous improvement in the quality of supermarkets and online shopping in the past 20 years, but we have had a deterioration in the quality of schools? The effect of the voucher plan would be to introduce competition in schooling and bring down the costs. This would improve both public and private schools, because now they will be competing in a free market of customers and will have a great incentive to improve the quality of their education. We spend more money on schools than we do on food and restaurants. Just like there is a variety of restaurants, you would have a large variety of specialized schools where children with inclinations could satisfy their appetite. But if the voucher plan is so attractive, why hasn't it been adopted? What stopped it? In the 60s and 70s, it was adopted by few cities, and even more expressed the interest, but the reason it didn't stick is because of the effective and determined opposition from educational bureaucracy. Over and over again, it was rejected, not by teachers, but by educational bureaucrats, and the reason was very simple. They could see that it would destroy their power. Funny enough, all these legislators send their own children to private schools because they can afford it. This is a very straightforward issue. If parents can choose, then administrators cannot dictate. If schools have to compete or shut down, well, then they are under real pressure to improve and meet the demands of their customers. As educational problems get worse and worse, there is more and more clamor to do something about it, and hopefully one day we'll be moving in the right direction. Thank you for watching.